The Carolina Panthers, a team that is looking for a new identity. It's been kind of looking all over the place for a little bit. It had Sam Darnold for a bit, Baker Mayfield for a bit, but I think they are going with a whole new direction. They're going with a young quarterback from Alabama and a completely new roster. In fact, I would like to tell you that on this roster, as I have been analyzing, 5 of the 6 players we're going to be covering were not with the Panthers last season, and that is everyone but their kicker. So we're looking at a makeshift lineup. Is this team fantasy ready, or does it intrigue many fantasy goers, or does it not simply? Today, let's find out. Hello everyone, my name is Aaron and this is the Game Day Hour. Welcome back to the Fantasy Football Team Review. In this series, we take a look at each and every 32 NFL franchises and see what they offer for fantasy football. Here we analyze a team's quarterback, running back, wide receiver 1 and 2, tight end, and starting kicker. Our goal is to analyze last season and see if these players are worth drafting, and if so, when and where. Today, we start the NFC South with the Carolina Panthers. Bryce Young, Carolina Panthers quarterback. I've had a lot of fun watching Bryce Young work at Alabama. It's a treat to watch. He is one of the best quarterbacks to ever run through that franchise since I've been alive. It's pretty magnificent to see how he runs and how composed he is with that offense and how mature he has become over the years. And as the first overall pick in this draft, Carolina is using him as the future for their franchise. Let's see what he did last season. In his last year with Alabama, he had 245 completions for 380 attempts. That's 64.5% of his completions. He had 3,328 passing yards, 32 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. He also had 49 carries for 185 rushing yards, and with that, 4 touchdowns on the ground. He was drafted first overall with the Carolina Panthers. So, a rookie starting. Now, we've covered one other rookie, that was CJ Stroud, and we didn't get to cover Anthony Richardson, though he may start for Indianapolis midway through the season. However, I said for both those players I would not draft either of them because I need to see a little bit more. However, I'm making an exception with Bryce Young because I truly think he is ready to shine. He is potentially somebody that I would draft. I have him 17th ranked on my list, so he is a quarterback 2. I don't see why you should ever use him as a quarterback 1, but I do think that he will put up some pretty good numbers this year because of his dual threat nature and the fact that I think he has a way better core than Stroud does in Houston. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen with Bryce Young, but I do think that you could take a gamble with him. However, I don't think he should be very high on your list, somewhere in the bottom QB2s. But over time, I think that's going to potentially go up as the season progresses. And hey, he might be a clear indicated draft. But right now, he's I would draft, but kind of player. Miles Sanders, Carolina Panthers running back. Now, the Panthers in one of their free agency moves got Miles Sanders as their starting running back, and that was a pretty smart move. I'm a big fan of Sanders and the way he runs the ball. Last season, in that run-heavy attack Eagles offense, he shined unlike any other running back in the league. So, for that offense, this is what he was able to do. He played 17 games for the Eagles last season. In those 17 games, he had 259 carries, that was 8th. Along with 1,269 rushing yards, that's 5th, and 11 touchdowns, that is 8th. That gave him 209 total fantasy points, which was 15th. That I was kind of surprised to see that because it's like 15th, really? How in the world did he put up all those stats and he was only 15th? I don't know. I thought that would have been more than that, but still, those are very respectable numbers. The problem is, Carolina is going to be in a little bit of a rebuild, find your identity mode. So how effective is Miles Sanders going to be? I'm not sure. I have him ranked 23rd on my list. Therefore, he is somebody I would draft as a potential flex position. But to me, he is a running back 2 or 3. And I don't know if we're going to see the 1,000 yards again. But if they are able to get 1,000 yards, then they should keep him. They should absolutely use him alongside Bryce Young. But it's only a matter if that type of success he had at Philadelphia can transfer to Carolina. Sometimes it doesn't. And it's unfortunate. But I don't know. We got to see. Adam Thielen, Carolina Panthers wide receiver 1. Now, one of the more intriguing moves that I did see the Panthers make was with Adam Thielen. Now, I'm a big Adam Thielen fan, and I believe he is one of the best wide receivers in the league, generally speaking. I don't know if I could say that anymore, but he's somebody I have a lot of confidence in. But last season, he had a little bit of a down year, and that's also because Justin Jefferson has taken over for Minnesota. So let's see. He played 17 games for the Vikings last year, and in those 17 games, he had 70 receptions, which was 37th, 716 receiving yards, that's in the middle of the 100s, he's 50th there. He did have 6 touchdowns, that's tied for 24th, and he had 171 total fantasy points, that is 31st. But this is as a wide receiver 2. So things could change now that he is in the mantle as a wide receiver 1. And I do believe he is a draftable guy. But he's right in the middle of that wide receiver 2, 3, and 4 position. Most likely see him in a 3 position now. He's 25th on my list of all wide receivers, which is still really good because I have a top 50 list for receivers. So he's right in the middle. He's in the draftable range, so if you think that Adam Thielen is going to have a year to go off, then it would more than likely validate the Bryce Young move and why I would draft him even as a rookie. Because I do think if Thielen is able to help Bryce produce, then you're going to see a chemistry be created in Carolina, and it's going to be fantastic for the future for the Panthers. I see him just in this range for now. It could go up. Who knows? DJ Chark, Carolina Panthers wide receiver 2. Another move they made was with DJ Chark, getting him from the Detroit Lions, but Chark did not have the best season with the Lions last year, and he is showing why he's just mostly a wide receiver 2 and nothing more than that. Last season, he had 11 games played. In those 11 games, he had 30 receptions. That's tied for 145th, along with 502 receiving yards. It's 84th. 3 touchdowns. That's tied for 72nd. That only gave him 93 total fantasy points, which was 75th. It could have been better. But he is a good wide receiver too, for like the stats that he puts up. And Bryce Young still has a pretty good receiver to use for that. And even though I do try to put praise on DJ Chark, I will still say that he is somebody I would not draft. He's not in my top 50, but he's probably going to be a top free agency pick for if injuries start to become a problem for you. And I don't know. I think Chark needs to see the 700 receiving yard ranges. I don't really care for the receptions. That's not something that really matters as far as the stats. It's more receiving yards and touchdowns. But I don't know. Only a matter of time to see what he can do for Bryce Young. But still a pretty solid wide receiver too. Hayden Hurst, Carolina Panthers tight end. Next up, we have Hayden Hurst, and he was with the Bengals last year in their championship efforts, but they didn't make the Super Bowl, so oh well. He was actually a very good target for Joe Burrow, so he's already shown that he can be a reliable tight end in this league, and again, something that Bryce Young is going to need. Last year, this was his stats. He played 13 games for the Bengals last year. In those 13 games, he had 52 receptions, that's tied for 72nd. He had 414 receiving yards, that's tied for 112th. He only had 2 touchdowns, that's tied for 111th. And he had 99 total fantasy points, that was 22nd among all tight ends. So on the lower end of the tight end spectrum, but he still put up some pretty good numbers last year. And because of this, I do think he is going to have an increase of like production, because I think he will become a security blanket for Bryce Young because of that. I have him ranked 14th on my list, which means he's a tight end 2, and he is somebody I would draft. So I would like to make this like claim that generally tight ends with rookie quarterbacks go off for the most part, because hey, that's probably the easier target to go to. They're probably going to get a lot of production. So Hayden Hurst to me is ranked high because of that. So if you think along with what I'm thinking with the whole security blanket theory, then he is somebody I think will be on many teams next year. Eddie Pinero, Carolina Panthers kicker. Lastly, we have Eddie Pinero. Now, I never heard of him, to be honest with you, until I started looking up these stats, but whoa, are these some very nice stats that he has. So let's take a look. He's the only returning Panther, and he played 17 games last year. In those 17 games, he went 33 for 35 and made and attempted. That's 94.3%. That's 6th in the entire NFL. He had 93.8% from extra point percentage. That's 29, so his long was from 54, tied for 23rd, but he had 129 points. That's 133 total fantasy points. That's 10th among all kickers. So he reduced last season. And I believe he's going to produce more this season if the offense gets the upgrades that it needs. And because of this, he is somebody I would 100% draft, and I actually have him ranked a little higher. He is 7th on my list, in between Nick Folk for the Patriots and Jason Myers for the Seahawks. Even though I already said that Nick Folk is not a starter, I think he will potentially return to being the starter, and he's a better kicker in that regards. But other than that, I believe he is top 10, so he is kicker 1 material, potentially kicker 2 if you don't think that highly. But he is somebody who is worth drafting. So, yeah, the Panthers actually have a pretty solid team the more I think about it. And that'll do it for today's episode. Also, to the Titans video, congratulations on getting DeAndre Hopkins. Unfortunately, I made that video prior to the day that Hopkins got signed by the Titans, so I didn't get to put him in the video. But if you want a mini analysis, I'll go ahead and say that I believe he's at least a wide receiver 3, at most a wide receiver 2, drafted in the mid rounds, rounds 5 and 8. I didn't even really say in this video where I would draft these guys, but I mean, that's fine. I think, you know, I'll do it just a little bit quick. I believe Bryce Young is somewhere being drafted in the rounds 10 through 13. That's number 1. Number 2 is Miles Sanders. I believe he will be drafted in rounds 4 through 9. For Adam Thielen, it's in rounds 7 through 11. For Chark, I already said I wasn't going to draft him. For Hayden Hurst, it would probably be in the rounds 7 through 12. And for Eddie Pinero, it would be in rounds 8 through 13. So that's where I would draft all the players. I know I'm kind of just, for some reason, it went out of my head to say that stuff, but I just managed to get this in before the video ends. So there's all that done. Continue to go and show some support by voting in the little sections I have for each conference or each division, who you think is going to win each division, more or less, that I have on YouTube. And yeah, that should be it for today. Go follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It'll be in the description below. And the next video will be the Atlanta Falcons, so look forward to that. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great day. Take care, and goodbye.